Alright, so something I've gotten as a response on most of my Helluva Boss videos is the fact that, okay, well, if you're such a good writer, why don't you fix it? So today, you know what? Get your red pens out, go and peer edit your friend's sheet, I'll be with Viv, and we're gonna start working on a couple of changes, right? Starting with what I think is one of the easiest changes you could make to make the timeline make a hell of a lot more sense. Yes, that was intentional. So what's the thing we're addressing today? Well, a couple of days ago, I made a video about the timeline, and the reason why the timeline feels so scuffed is because a lot of events that should have taken place over a large amount of time seem to have taken place over, at most, the course of a week, which isn't implausible, it just feels way wrong versus how they constantly are characterizing the timeline of the show. In between episodes, a lot of time keeps passing, so we don't know any specifics, but this is a method to help aid the timeline without adding any specific date, any specific sort of thing. All you have to do is add one word. So here's the timeline thus far, right? Blitz sleeps with Stolas. Next morning, he tells Stella. Stella is freaking out about it in the Lululand episode. We don't know how much time happens between this, but let's take this idea, right? That Blitz slept with Stolas. That can still be the first time. That's fine. But in the Lululand episode, let's change it so that Stella says the word again. In episode 1, it was already established that Blitz and Stolas are having their monthly meetups for their little deal that they arranged. Why not capitalize on that instantly? We see them doing it in Harvest Moon, which is great. That tells us that time is passing in the show. But if we were to have some kind of acknowledgement that Stella saying, "You slept with an imp again," that would mean that time has passed between Murder Family and Lululand, and Stella freaking out about it feels perfectly in character for either interpretation. It works with the sort of jealousy arc they have with her in Season 1, and it also works with the fugly bitch arc they have with her in Season 2. So it's not like this is going to contradict her character that much. On top of this, it also adds more credence when Octavia says that her parents keep fighting all the time, while the word again could mean a second time, a third, fourth, fifth, it could be any number of times. You don't have to be specific about it. It just tells us that Blitz and Stolas are making good on their deals, which you already do later in the season. And on top of all of this, it is an incredibly simple change that just helps make the timeline make more sense. I understand that many people who watched the Lululand episode and left comments on my video say that the interpretation they go with is kind of the one that I'm talking about. Like Stella getting mad at Stolas for this again. Like this is her arguing about it for another time. I just wish that was more apparent in the show itself. Because while I can kind of see that interpretation, you have to ignore how the context of the scene is set up in isolation in Season 1. If you don't know what we know in Season 2, you assume that this is the first time Stella's getting mad about it, because it looks that way, it is directed that way, it is conveyed that way. By adding the word again, suddenly, she's been blowing up on Stolas for this many times before because it's happened a couple times before. Octavia's arc feels more vindicated because yeah, if they fight like this every time this happens, well we know that there's a monthly deal, so the house goes to shit once a month. That's great. And then when Stolas is talking about how he doesn't have any words for the situation he's in, I feel that so much more because now I feel like he's been going through this shit for months. I just think it'd fix a lot of problems.